we give Donald Trump 8 years in the White House, he will forever and fundamentally alter the character of this nation.
Joe Biden using that argument to announce he's running for president. Next on Currents News, a look at the Catholic candidate that you won't find anywhere else. A controversy tonight over communion when a bishop won't give the body of Christ to people who kneel. Catholic church services are being suspended in Sri Lanka's capital after the Easter Sunday bombings. Plus, the tablet that could become a collector's item. A preview of the paper's Holy Week portrait. The news starts right now. Good evening, I'm Emily Druby. Liz Faublas is off. Joe Biden is running for president. The Catholic Democrat joins at least 19 other candidates trying to win the party's nomination. Biden made it official this morning with a video that didn't talk about policy. Instead, he ripped into President Trump.
I believe history will look back on 4 years of this president and all he embraces as an aberrant moment in time. But if we give Donald Trump 8 years in the White House, he will forever and fundamentally alter the character of this nation, who we are, and I cannot stand by and watch that happen.
This 76-year-old former vice president under Barack Obama will likely present himself as a middle-of-the-road, level-headed leader for a country deeply divided by politics. Biden devoted a large portion of his announcement video to criticizing Trump for the president's reaction to racial violence in Charlottesville, Virginia in 2017, when a white supremacist plowed his car into a woman, leading to her death.
And that's when we heard the words of the President of the United States that stunned the world and shocked the conscience of this nation. He said there were, quote, some very fine people on both sides. Very fine people on both sides?
Trump didn't respond to those remarks, but did tweet this morning labeling Biden Sleepy Joe. This is Biden's third attempt to capture the White House. He failed in 1988 and 2008. If he were to win now, he'd become only the second Catholic after John F. Kennedy to be president. Biden publicly proclaims his faith.
My religion defines who I am.
But he's also publicly opposed to some of the church's most fundamental teachings, especially regarding the sanctity of life.
I accept my church's position on abortion as what we call de fide doctrine. Life begins at conception. That's the church's judgment. I accept it in my personal life. But I refuse to impose it on equally devout Christians and Muslims and Jews. I do not believe that we have a right to tell other people that women, they can't control their body.
He said that while running for vice president in 2012. Although Biden was the number 2 man in the Obama administration, the former president hasn't endorsed. And this morning, Biden claimed he asked Obama not to endorse him. But New York Governor Andrew Cuomo, another Catholic politician who supports abortion, is singing Biden's praises.
He has the experience, he has the background. I've worked with him for years. He has the talent. I think he has the personality for the moment. And I think he can unify the Democratic Party.
Most public opinion polls put Biden as the front runner in the very large field, but whether that represents name recognition or strong backing remains unknown. Number 2 on the list is 77-year-old Bernie Sanders, who finished second in 2016, losing the Democratic nomination to Hillary Clinton. Joe Biden's Catholic, but he's at odds with the church when it comes to abortion and the sanctity of life. National correspondent for The Tablet and Crux, Christopher White, joins us now with insight on the candidate that you won't find anywhere else. Christopher, you say Biden has been one of the most vocal Catholic politicians in the last 50 years. Besides what we just heard from him, how else has Biden talked about his faith throughout his public life?
Well, look, Emily, this is a man who, when he first arrived on the scene in the Senate, lost his wife and daughter in a car accident. And he has continually gone back to that moment to say, this defined me. But not only did that accident define him, but the faith that got him through it defined him. And so throughout, his, 50 years as a man in public life, he's talked about his Catholic roots, going back to his childhood in Scranton, Pennsylvania. He's talked about the church's sort of work alongside workers in the labor movement. But of course, as we'll discuss, there are some areas which there are strong disagreements as well.
Yeah, Chris, as we've seen, Biden is on the wrong side of crucial church teachings, particularly his public support for abortion. What has he done in office about the sanctity of life, and where does he stand on other issues that matter most to Catholics?
So he's one of those politicians that say, look, privately I support the church's teaching, but publicly I can't sort of legislate on it. So he is at odds with the U.S. bishops on that. But he would also say, look, I'm firmly opposed to the death penalty, so I see that as part of the church's pro-life witness that I stand in support of. And he'd also probably say that, look, while I was vice president, we pushed through the Affordable Care Act, which brought down the overall abortion rate.
Immigration has also been another important issue. In Biden's career, where does he stand there, and are those positions allied with U.S. Catholic leaders?
Yeah, this is an area I think where you just find little margin between him and the U.S. bishops, because he has said, look, we've got to champion immigrant rights, particularly through DACA, which the administration pushed through.
Thank you so much, Chris. With Joe Biden's entry into the 2020 presidential race, the Democratic field running for office has set a record at 20. Among the Democratic candidates are Senator Cory Booker, New York's Kirsten Gillibrand, Kamala Harris, Beto O'Rourke, Bernie Sanders, and Elizabeth Warren. The candidates are vying for the right to challenge President Trump and take over the White House. As the oldest campaigner, Sanders could face a battle to attract younger voters. At a forum called She the People in Houston yesterday, Sanders had a tough go of it and was booed when he said he marched with Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.
I know I date myself a little bit here, but I actually was at the March on Washington with Dr. King back in 1963.
The She the People event is aimed at getting women of color involved in the upcoming elections. Now we turn to the Easter Sunday bombings in Sri Lanka, a story still developing tonight. Authorities are lowering the death toll of those killed to 253. The Catholic Archbishop of Colombo suspended all church services today until next Monday due to security concerns. Terrorists deliberately targeted Catholic churches for death and destruction on Easter Sunday, killing hundreds. The U.S. Embassy in Colombo is warning people to avoid houses of worship this coming weekend. Sri Lanka's Prime Minister said again today that so-called sleeper cells of terrorists are still on the loose and represent a danger of new attacks. The Church of St. Sebastian and the Shrine of St. Anthony were severely damaged when the suicide bombers struck. 2 Catholic priests in our area have served in those sacred places before. Currents News' Tim Harfman reports on them.
The Easter Sunday bombings in Sri Lanka, still fresh on the minds of Catholic priests who know the terror targets well.
There were so many calls from Sri Lanka, from my family, and I immediately thought, oh, this is not good.
Father Nalaka Silva is the coordinator of the Sri Lankan Catholic community of New York and New Jersey. The horrific news still leaves him emotional.
I was shocked. I mean, a lot of pain, because we have our connection with our people wherever we may have done masses. It's so painful,
Another priest from Sri Lanka understands the pain. Known as Father Vasan Kumar, he ministers to Catholics at Our Lady of Solace Church in the Bronx. Father Vasan was once assigned to Sri Lanka's St. Anthony Shrine and St. Sebastian, 2 of the bomb-targeted churches.
My heart is breaking. My heart is burning. I can't eat, I can't sleep, I can't do anything.
He said his family is safe, but knows parishioners who died when the bombs exploded.
Innocent people died. They don't know what to do. Just they went for the Mass, to celebrate the resurrection of our Lord Jesus Christ.
He calls them martyrs, those who die for their faith. Among them, children.
Small children, they don't know, they are innocents, they are going to be the angels.
Father Nalaka knows St. Anthony Shrine too. He worked at the church for 4 years. Father Nalaka says his family is also safe. He visited his homeland in January and is worried about his parishioners.
As Catholic priest, wherever we go, even just for one day, we have our special connection.
As Christians continue to bury their loved ones in Sri Lanka, Father Nalaka is calling for peace.
We are Christians and we believe in love more than anything else. This is time to be patient.
Love and patience, two virtues the local priests hope will stem the deadly violence in their homeland. Tim Harfman, Currents News.
Stay with us. The permanent representative of Sri Lanka to the United Nations, Amrith Rohan Pereira, joins us with the latest news from his homeland. That's still ahead in this newscast. There are new developments tonight in the case of the man accused of going into St. Patrick's Cathedral with the intention of setting it on fire. Prosecutors said Mark Lamparello planned to fly to Rome after the St. Patrick's incident and had also booked a hotel just 20 minutes from the Vatican. Lamparello was arrested last week and is considered a flight risk. Police said he spent considerable time planning and surveilling St. Patrick's before his arrest. Russian President Vladimir Putin says he is pleased with the outcome of his summit with North Korean President Kim Jong-un. During a 3-hour-long meeting, Putin says the leaders discussed how to improve the situation on the Korean peninsula. However, no formal agreement to denuclearize has been reached.
We welcome your efforts on developing inter-Korean dialogue and your efforts on normalizing the U.S.-North Korean relations.
Kim himself asked Vladimir Putin to relay his position to the United States to make his concerns about denuclearization heard by all sides. There's a lot more news headed your way. Why the FBI and the IRS raided the home of the mayor of one of America's major cities. A death penalty executed and ultimate punishment was administered in Texas. Who died and why? And communion controversy when a Catholic bishop withheld the body of Christ from worshipers. The feds are investigating Baltimore Mayor Catherine Pugh, raiding several locations tied to the embattled mayor's business dealings. The FBI and IRS executed search warrants at Pugh's home and Baltimore City Hall early Thursday morning. Pugh is being investigated for allegations she improperly profited from a no-bid book deal while serving on the board of Maryland's medical system. Pugh has since taken a leave of absence. No arrests have been made. The murderer of James Byrd Jr. has been executed in Texas. John William King and 2 others were convicted of killing Byrd, who was African American, 2 decades ago. They beat and dragged him behind a truck for nearly 3 miles. The horrific crime inspired the passage of hate crime legislation. King was executed by lethal injection on Wednesday. A tractor-trailer leaking ammonia in Illinois has sent at least 30 people to the hospital. The trailer carrying anhydrous ammonia can cause unconsciousness and even death if inhaled. The chemical spill has since been contained. Officials are advising anyone within a 1-mile radius of the spill to stay indoors with their windows closed. So far, none of the injuries are life-threatening. Joining us now with more on the latest developments in Sri Lanka about the Easter Sunday bombings is the country's permanent representative to the United Nations, Amrith Rohan Pereira. Mr. Ambassador, thank you for being here, and please accept our prayers for the people of Sri Lanka. What is the latest that you can tell us about the crisis of the Easter Sunday bombings?
Thank you very much. What I can say is that the death toll has now risen to over 350. For the reason that large numbers were injured, and with those who have succumbed to injuries, number has naturally risen. There are over 30 children among them, and on the side of investigations are continuing. Number of arrests have been made, and this will continue in the coming days and weeks.
How are the people of Sri Lanka feeling about this tragedy?
Well, this tragedy occurred on one of the most sacred days in Sri Lanka, in particular to the Catholics and the Christians, but it is also a day of national celebration. A particular church in Colombo was venerated not only by Catholics, also by the Buddhists, Hindus. It's a church existing from the Portuguese times and well known for miracles. So the entire society is affected by it, that it happened on that day. It also coincided with the traditional Sinhala and Tamil New Year. So it was an assault not only on the Christian community, but on the social fabric at large on the cherished values and principles of humanity that Sri Lankan, the multi-ethnic, multicultural, multi-religious society of Sri Lanka deeply cherish.
Your Prime Minister is warning about sleeper cells. Are people afraid of a threat of new bomb attacks?
Naturally, after an event of this nature, given the magnitude, there are tremendous fears, and it's always in such situations the tendency is to be cautious and take all necessary precautions to avoid a repetition.
The Catholic Archbishop of Colombo has suspended all church services until next Monday because of security concerns. Is religious freedom at risk in Sri Lanka?
I would not say that religious freedom is at risk. This is obviously natural following this this episode, and it's for the Archbishop to take that decision. And once again, it's a preventive measure, and that by itself does not mean that the religious freedom is restricted. People will always light a lamp, light a candle in the privacy of their homes. That is the essence of religion.
Authorities are pointing to a Sri Lankan terror group, the National Tawhid Jamaat, as the masterminds behind the Easter Sunday bombings. We haven't heard much about them in the U.S. Who are they?
I have no specifics apart from what we read in the media. I'm afraid that must await further investigation.
What message can we send to the people of Sri Lanka that have been affected by this horrendous attack?
Yes, message is to be vigilant, to be peaceful, not to react, not to be guided by emotion, but to reach out to your neighbor, to members of all faiths. In fact, right now, not only in Sri Lanka, here in New York City, I've been attending multi-faith ceremonies, and we are sending out the message. We had one of the biggest multi-faith events in New York City yesterday in this permanent mission, with the participation of all religious leaders. And the message is that we all speak in this common language of humanity.
Thank you so much for your time, Mr. Ambassador.
Thank you.
Chilean Bishop Celestino IOC is under fire tonight for denying communion to at least 2 faithful who knelt down during communion on Holy Thursday. Churchgoers are also upset that the entrance procession included Cardinal Riccardo Azzotti, who is being investigated for covering up clerical sex abuse. Some even walked out of the service. The Roman Missal establishes that Holy Communion can be received either standing or kneeling. The Brooklyn Diocese Annual Mass of Hope and Healing is being celebrated next Tuesday. Bishop Nicholas DiMarzio will preside at the liturgy that is planned by sexual abuse survivors for abuse survivors. The Mass will be held on Tuesday, April 30th at St. Athanasius Church in Bensonhurst. It will be televised live on Net TV at 7 p.m. Because of Tuesday's Mass, Currents News will air at a special time at 6:30. Still to come on Currents News, Editor-in-Chief of The Tablet, Jorge Dominguez, is here to tell us why the latest edition could become a collector's item. And the Relics of Jesus, an amazing story on how they were found for something new. We'll be right back. A priest from the Diocese of Rockville Center is the new Executive Director of Ecumenical and Interreligious Affairs for America's Bishops. Father Walter Kajursky has wide experience in religious dialogue. He takes over his new position with U.S. Bishops Conference in June. He had been the rector-president of the Seminary of the Immaculate Conception in Huntington. The latest edition of The Tablet is something you might want to keep as a collector's item. It is a wonderful portrait of Holy Week with great photographs that will last forever in print, and a column from Bishop Nicholas DiMarzio that you'll definitely want to read. Editor-in-Chief Jorge Dominguez joins us now with a preview. Jorge, this is another memorable issue of The Tablet. Tell us a little bit more about it.
Thank you, Emily. Yes, it is a beautiful issue because it is a snapshot of the whole Diocese of Brooklyn and Queens. And at the same time, time, it is a portrait of this week with so many complex news. The attacks in Sri Lanka, some hope from Paris, a beautiful article about the Arch Cathedral there, and then the whole celebration of a Holy Week in Brooklyn and Queens with so many devotions, traditions, cultural heritage. It is incredibly rich.
And Bishop DiMarzio has a powerful column in the paper. What is he writing?
It is a long column. It's his homily from Holy Week, and he starts by saying, maybe this is going to be my last Holy Week here, or maybe the next to last one. And he's really hitting for the fences in this column. He's talking about sexual abuse. He's talking about what it means to be a priest. He talks about what it means to be a bishop. You have to read it.
Thank you so much. The Tablet is your pro-life newspaper, and you can follow the latest news about the sanctity of life in the printed version of the Tablet, which is in churches across the diocese right now, or in your mailbox with a subscription. Your support for the Tablet is needed to ensure that Catholic journalism will thrive well into the future. If you subscribe to the Tablet, you'll save up to 55%. Go to the website thetablet.org/home55 or call 877-883-8356. And the Tablet has a brand new page called Our Diocesan Family, where you can share your pictures of recent baptisms, Holy Communions, confirmations, marriage, all of the joyous sacraments. For more details and to submit your photos, go to thetablet.org/ourdiocesanfamily. Your pictures may be published in an upcoming issue of the newspaper. A new book about Christ is out, examining actual relics of Jesus. The photos and evidence were gathered from all over the world, and some of the relics have been studied by hundreds of scientists. Melissa Butts reports.
The Equestrian Order of the Holy Sepulchre of Jerusalem has presented this book, Witnesses of the Mystery, the Relics of Jesus. Co-authors Gushigash Gorni and Janusz Rosikan say it's a part of the Black Series, getting its name from the book's cover. The photographer Rosikan spoke about his experience in creating it over the span of 2 years.
We decided that if we've got family and we've got many remembers of the former past time, so that's for sure that must be some relics from Jesus Christ, real relics.
He explained they gathered photos and evidence from all over the world, encompassing it all in this book. One example of the relics presented is the Shroud of Turin. It's believed this cloth wrapped Christ's body when he was taken down from the cross and brought to the tomb.
A few hundred scientists from high-level university examine the Turin Shroud, and now we've got a few hundred scientific book about Turin Shroud, and is for sure the Turin Shroud is real relic from Jesus Christ.
The two authors have completed various other books such as the Guadalupe Mysteries, the Fatima Mysteries, Christmas Mysteries, and many more. Melissa Butts, Currents News.
An important programming note, a special benefit concert for the rebuilding of Notre Dame Cathedral will be held tomorrow, and Net TV will televise the live event. It's being called Together with Notre Dame de Paris and will be staged tomorrow, Friday, April 26th at 7 p.m. in the Basilica of the National Shrine of the Immaculate Conception in Washington, D.C. So that you may watch this wonderful concert, Currents News airs at a special time tomorrow, 6:30 p.m. That is Currents News. I'm Emily Drewby. Thank you for joining us because we are putting your faith in the news. Hope to see you again next time.